Happy Heritage Day, South Africa. And of course, a Heritage Day in our country signifies the celebration of cultural wealth, of national unity, and of course, diversity. And this day was meant for South Africans to recognize and acknowledge each other's unique contribution to this country's rich tapestry. However, South Africa does seem to be unable to move on and heal from its past. Now, Nomfundo Mogapi is the founder and CEO of the Center of Mental Wellness and Leadership, and she says that healing cannot be separated from people's lived experiences and, of course, the unresolved collective trauma that has shattered our heritage. Mogapi also says sincere redress actually requires political, socio-economic and trauma-informed solutions, as well as a prioritization of mental wellness. Nomfundo Mogapi from the Center for Mental Wellness and Leadership joins us now virtually from the beautiful Tsitsikamma. Good morning, and thanks so much for speaking to us on this public holiday.
Good morning, and just good morning to all the viewers. Happy Heritage Day.
I am so envious of where you are right now. But hey, yeah, some of us have to keep the home fires burning. So, Sissy, you know, it's supposed to be a happy day and, you know, we're talking about our heritage, what makes us who we are. But what is heritage and what should Heritage Day celebrations actually resemble in the South African context, especially in contemporary South Africa?
Thank you, Shakina, and really thank you for picking up this topic. Definitely, we do have to celebrate and remember the people who have given us the heritage that we have now, which is the heritage of a free South Africa, where we can make decisions about our future, where we can all be able to vote. However, I think over and above just reflection, it's important for us to also use this heritage as an opportunity to reflect and ask ourselves, what kind of South Africa do we want to leave for the next generation? And Shakina, I really think that one of the most important work that our current generation have to do is to break the cycles of wounding and trauma, which are going to sabotage our society. Unfortunately, what we've learned now in trauma studies and trauma work supported by research is that if we don't deal with our brokenness and trauma, it literally gets transferred to the next generation. We store the trauma in our DNA. So it's important for us as the present generation to ask, what kind of a society do we want to give to our children? Are we going to allow our trauma to shape our children's emotional world and how they interact with institutions in our society? What kind of leaders are we going to be? Because as leaders, we can play a critical role in reshaping institutions that facilitate healing for our society.
And that's such an important issue to focus in on, because we are a country, you know, that deals with a pandemic that is rape. And it really has reached those level of crisis proportions in our country. We deal with gender-based violence on a daily basis, to the point where the presidency has to step in to prioritize this as an issue that we need to deal with. We come from a very, very violent past. And as you say, given all of these complexities of our South African society and its reality, our historical context, which is, of course, laden with terminology also such as social cohesion and diversity, how exactly are we doing as a country in terms of just trying to forge ahead and find each other?
Yeah, so you've just painted very powerfully our history, right, that we've inherited. And the other thing that we also have to appreciate, Shakina, is that over and above this history that has resulted into a very fragile social cohesion, we've seen the deepening of the divisions in our society. And COVID-19 has actually not helped us. It has made things worse. And the recent violence and looting that we saw has created even more divisions in our society. So unfortunately, whilst there might be certain progress in terms of policies and laws in our country, when it comes to the human capital and the social capital, this heritage of trauma, this unresolved trauma that we have also inherited from our fathers and great-grandfathers, and we are giving to the next generation, is actually eating up the very same social capital that we need in order to have a cohesive society that can deal with the myriad challenges that we have as a country, including gender-based violence, including socio-economic exclusion, and including, Shakina, I want to use this opportunity, ensuring that as we approach the local government elections, we have elections that are not marked by violence, but elections that really are peaceful and give South Africans an opportunity to vote for the people that they actually want. So it's very important for us to do this work in order to have the South Africa that we want.
And we talk about a South Africa in which we all want to be united in our diversity. But how much have South Africans actually tried to embrace each other's uniqueness in terms of our culture, of our history, of our heritage, of each grouping as reflected in everyday life, how we market and advertise, for example, taking into account the recent examples of hair products advert that was a huge mishap, some would say. How have we done on that score in terms of embracing each other's culture and heritage?
So, Shakina, what we know is that as human beings, when we've really healed, we become open, we let go of our guards, and we allow others that seem like the other into our world because we feel safe and we feel secure. Unfortunately, the more our trauma gets triggered, the more we feel wounded, we actually move more towards constriction. Our walls become much more stronger, and the people that are seen as the other are seen as a threat. And it is really unfortunate that in the past few years in South Africa, we have really seen people clicking more and more with their own. And also, by the way, you know, what trauma looks for is a tribe, is a sense of belonging in order to heal. So what has happened is that, you know, the ethnic divisions are crystallizing in our country. The racial divisions are becoming worse. We've seen some of the things like what's happening in Phoenix now, the violence that is very much informed by these divisions that are existing. So unfortunately, if we continue to not deal with this trauma, we are going to see ourselves moving more and more into the othering, deepening the divisions in our society, and again, threatening the very same peace that we are trying to accomplish. And Shakina, in cases like this, what we know is that when the divisions are deepening, then usually those in power can easily mobilize these divisions towards becoming more, towards getting more power, and at times even and people end up being violent because they see the other as being different from them, not being human. So we really are just reaching a very, very concerning stage in South Africa if we don't become awake and address these issues.
So how can we do better? How do we actually accept each other for who we are? How do I move to that point where I don't have to feel apologetic about who I am because, for example, I speak Afrikaans, which is then seen as the language of the oppressor? That may be the case, but the reality is also that that is my mother tongue. How do we move forward in a way that is all-encompassing?
Yeah. So before we move forward, we are going to need to move back a bit, Shakina. We are going to have to appreciate as a society that studies in the trauma field have actually shown that the things that have happened to us, our experiences and our trauma matters, and they actually shape the way in which we're going to interact later. We haven't done sufficient work in South Africa to really not talk as inventing, but to talk in a containing environment that facilitates healing. It's in order to enable us to then move towards truly seeing each other as human beings. So we need spaces where during Heritage Day, we bring people of different backgrounds and we just connect with each other as human beings. We need facilitated spaces where you can talk, Shakina, about what is your experience in terms of your marginalization when you speak Afrikaans, and other people to hear your lived experiences. We need to train church leaders, traditional leaders, leaders in organizations, because they are the key vehicle for facilitating the spaces that enable healing, but also enable us to move forward. We can't deny the past as if it doesn't exist, but also we can't allow ourselves to become prisoners of this past. So in the present day, we really need facilitators of healing. It can't just only be us as psychologists, and it can't just be in therapy rooms. It has to be influencers in societies that are able to translate the language of psychology into what people can understand around facilitating healing. So I think this is really, Shakina, the work of the current generation, is facilitating healing so that we leave a legacy, we leave an inheritance of healing and of peace for the next generation.
Indeed, and I think that's a good note on which to leave it. And of course, we will have to lead from the front as the parents of, this generation that is coming through now. But thank you so much for giving us your time on a public holiday. And that was Nomfundo Mogapi, the founder and CEO of the Center for Wellness and Leadership. And she says in 1994, all that South Africa did was to dress up the wound and not to really fully appreciate the rich heritage and the diversity that the country needs to recognize in order to heal from some of the unresolved collective trauma.